everybody. Welcome back to another episode of No BS Just Marriage. We're excited to have you here again today. My name is Boris. This is my lovely, beautiful wife.
Hey guys, my name is Stephanie.
Yes, and we have another topic of conversation for today. We're excited to dive into it, so let's go right in. Tell them what we're going to be talking about today.
We'll be talking about fighting in front of your children.
Yay, so fun. Not fun, but we got a lot to get into. We'll talk about the good, the bad, the do's and don'ts about, having conflict in front of your children. So go ahead and kick it off a little bit.
I mean, if you've been married for a long time or even a short period of time and you have children in the house, chances are you've already argued in front of them. And if you haven't, don't worry, that day is coming because it's inevitable.
Agreed. Speaking firsthand, I thought we'd be the perfect couple and never argue. We did maybe the first week, but yeah, it happens. For the first time that it happens, it feels terrible. You feel like a horrible parent and just like a failure, honestly, in that moment. But if you look into it, it's crazy. It's actually normal. It can actually be healthy if it's done in the right way. I'm excited to go into that.
Yeah, so today we'll be talking about the real stuff, conflict in front of your kids, because so many of us were raised in homes where fights were either explosive or completely silent. And both of those extremes teach the wrong lessons.
Right. So either feel like there's one or two. You grow up thinking conflict is something that's dangerous and has to be avoided, or we think it means that your love is just falling apart. So the truth in that is conflict is a part of the love. So it's not the problem. It's how we handle that problem that matters. If that makes sense. So yes, and there is a Bible verse, of course, and this is in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26. It says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger." This brings me to, I think it automatically triggers our kind of motto of don't go to sleep angry. I'm sure like a lot of marriages have that saying, it's better not to go to sleep angry. Of course, you can't control it all the time, but I think having that mindset of trying to, disperse that anger that you have for each other, it helps in some way, even if you don't fully like love each other at the end of the night. It helps in order to have that mindset. But I think that this verse connects right into that. Does that make sense? Am I blabbering?
The Bible is pretty much our principles and guidelines of how we're supposed to act and how we're supposed to love each other. So if he's saying, do not let the sun go down on your anger, and we go to sleep angry, we're actually not being obedient to God.
Simple. That's what I was trying to say, but I said it in so many nonsense words. So
it's okay.
Yes, what else you got?
Also, I feel like your children shouldn't see a perfect marriage. I think that's actually more harmful than good. They need to see the real you. They need to see where people mess up and apologize and take responsibility and grow. Because if not, when they go into their own marriage and relationships in the future, they're not going to know how to navigate their emotions. Because if they see their parents be silent when they're fighting and their wife or whoever is upset, they're not going to know how to handle that in that moment, which will cause stress on the other spouse because they're going to be like, bro, you don't care. You're so emotionally unavailable.
That makes sense. So it's crucial to learn how to deal with those conflicts. It's not, you can't avoid them. You just have to learn how to manage them and do it in a healthy way.
Yes, exactly. And there's also a Bible verse regarding that as well. That is Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4-5. Love is patient, love is kind, it keeps no record of wrongs. It's 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4-5. Why I love this verse so much is because, number one, our son literally said this verse during our vows when we got married. That
was the verse he did?
Yes. It's
a good one.
It just resonates with me so much because whenever I hear it, it just reminds me and brings me back to our wedding day. Teaching this verse to him and helping him understand that, how love is really supposed to be patient and how love is kind, it keeps no wrongdoing. I mean, I can go deep into this, but I don't want to overwhelm everybody.
Maybe how do you feel about show a clip of our son at our wedding saying this vow?
Oh, that's a great idea. Let's enter that clip right now.
Action.
1 Corinthians. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily arranged, it keeps no record wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always preserves.
Thank you, sir. It was beautiful. Give the man a round of applause.
Wasn't that verse so good? He did so well.
Yes, that's my boy right there. That's my dude. I think overall that verse itself, it applies to how we love our spouses and how we model love for our kids. So I think that's why it's important. That was a great verse that he picked. So now just going further, honestly, I think that when we try to hide every disagreement, we're robbing our kids essentially of learning emotional maturity, which is huge.
Yes.
Conflict resolution, accountability, all that stuff they're going to need later in life, whether it's friendships, if it's a job, relationship, and most importantly, their walk with God.
Ooh, yes. Yeah, 100%. You're spot on. But let's be clear, not all fighting in front of kids is healthy, right? You know, there's a difference between healthy disagreement and emotional damage. And how we do healthy disagreements with our child is we fight, but also show him that we end with love. And emotional damage, I would say that would mean, talking down on you in front of him, attacking you in front of him, degrading you in front of him. That's not healthy. I think that's creating a lot of damage in front of our children. So there's also different levels of fights too, right? There's times where we're arguing, but it's a very monotone. It's not we're like in each other's faces. It's
like clearly a disagreement that needs to be resolved, but it's not, it's not hectic. There's no rage, it's just, a healthy disagreement. So I think there's a difference between that and then a difference on the other hand. There's yelling, name calling, threats, just pure disrespect. And that's not just normal conflict. That's harm. That lingers, that teaches fear, it shuts kids down. And I think we've been there. And I think it brings me back to a reason, maybe not a sole reason why, or one of the main reasons why we do our weekly check-ins to bring up these issues. But I think when we're in that safe space of getting things off our chests and, opening our ears and our hearts to things that we need to resolve, I think doing that is super healthy. And in result, what we're doing is avoiding that conflict that could have blew up in the middle of the week, which our son would have heard and been like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? But instead, we waited for a safe moment for us to be in the right mindset to discuss it. So,
exactly. Don't let your emotion get the best of you.
Yes. And I did want to mention a verse on that, which is in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. This is how the chapter starts. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. That's deep. I just thought of this. This reminds me, I'm not trying to sound like someone who's quoting people, but I know Martin Luther King, he had a quote, something like darkness doesn't cure darkness, light cures darkness, or something like this. We can't resolve an issue by, I guess, putting two negatives to try to, turn into a positive, or trying to come at each other. Am I making sense?
No, that makes sense.
Trying to both get our point across in the wrong way is not going to have a great result. But if one of us, turns the other cheek and tries to, bring it more positive, be the bigger person and try to say, things and turn the argument into something more healthy and more balanced and stable, I think that's where the light comes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm not trying to get in nobody's business, but for me, I truly believe that, if you are engaged or you're in a relationship, even if you may not even be married yet, but it's so important to find a partner that is the opposite of your emotions. So for instance, I will honestly say that I'm the one that is more hot-headed in our marriage, and you are so patient with me in those times. I truly can't imagine being with someone that is like me. So that would be darkness versus darkness. You know what I mean? We wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And I feel like that would be even more detrimental to our children, because no one's going to be the bigger person if we're both butting heads. So it's so important to find someone that is the opposite of you.
Yeah. Just to be clear, you're not a dark person. I see the analogy you made, but I don't like the comparison of you being darkness.
Okay.
You're my light in my life. Okay.
Look at you being so poetic. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. No, but you're right. I'm not always a darkness, but I just wanted to give that perspective so people can kind of see what
we're being real. It's okay. I love it. What else you got?
What else I have? I don't know. I feel like just thinking about it, there's also times where I don't know about you, but I've had to apologize to our son. His name is Mikhail, by the way. His name is Mikai. So if you hear us saying Mikai, that's what we're talking about. And so, there are times where I've had to come back and say to him, hey, what you heard wasn't okay. We didn't handle that the right way, but we're working on it. It's okay because we're gonna have mishaps, but as long as we're being honest and forthright with him, I think everything's going to be okay. He doesn't need to know what the argument was about. He just needs to know that mom and dad were able to resolve it in a healthy manner. I think that's it, right?
No, I think that's facts. Again, arguments, disagreements are inevitable. There's no way to avoid it. You can't avoid it. The only thing you can control is how you handle it.
Yeah.
And if it's huge to us, if we're arguing about it, like obviously it's a big deal. So imagine how big it can be of an impact to your child. Not even an adult yet, who just sees their parents as these lovebirds who get along all the time. And then all of a sudden we just have a screaming match and they're like, oh my gosh, they're about to murder each other. So
exactly. Now that I think about it, just thinking about some of the adults that I know, they have such an anger problem. And I'm thinking like something is, because if you've watched our episodes before, I'm a trauma-based person. I like to relate things back to your childhood. And it seems to me, and I maybe will have to like dig deeper, but I believe people that have anger issues grow up in a household that has had anger issues as well. And so they don't know how to process their emotions in that moment because they weren't taught how to navigate that in a healthy manner.
Yeah. It always relates back to your childhood.
You said what?
Everything. It always relates back to your childhood in some way.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and there's also a Bible verse that's also related to that, and it is James 5, verse 16 says, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. I love this verse so much, and I'm going to say a quick backstory because I want people to understand what this verse means to me. So I don't know if you remember this fight that we had. This was probably in one of our very few explosive fights, but this was maybe like 3 years ago. And I think it was about finances because I think that was
of course.
I think that was something that was just very early on in our marriage that never it wasn't truly resolved yet. And so I remember us talking about it and it was just escalating and it was just escalating. And this was the first time you were screaming back at me because I'm usually the screamer, and it was a screaming match for sure.
I remember.
And just another backstory. So typically at night, I like to be cuddled when we go to bed. It's just a non-negotiable for me. I have to be cuddled before we go to bed. That night, you sat there and told me to my face that you were not going to cuddle me. And I was so hurt because like, why would you say that? Because, we've had arguments before where, we would argue, but you would still cuddle me, but you vocalized that you were not. So I'm like, oh, you really mad at me. So, in my mind, I'm like, this is only going to make us worse tomorrow because for me, in order for me to have a good night's rest, I have to be cuddled. I don't know. I got to figure out that trauma behind that too. But I remember just, turning my back on you, like whatever, I'll be mad. And we turned off the lights. We're going to bed. And I want to say maybe 10 or 15 minutes passed. I felt this rush of peace. I don't know where it came from, but I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with you not cuddling me in that moment. And I promise you, once I thought that, babe, you literally turned around and you cuddled me. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? I didn't ask no questions. I'm like, we'll talk about it in the morning. Anyway, I know the story is getting long, but there's a testimony. So the following morning, we went to Mikai's room and he looked at me with this like, are y'all okay? And I'm like, yeah, I heard you guys arguing, whoop-de-woo. And he was like, yeah, I was really worried. So I started to pray for you guys. So then I asked him, I said, if you don't mind me asking, what time did you pray, if you remember? And he said 10:30. And I remember looking on my phone around that time that you cuddled me. It was literally around 10:30. So I truly, truly feel God intercessed, like the Holy Spirit spoke through our child for him to pray for us in that moment of despair. And once he prayed for us, God gave us breakthrough, because that rush of peace that I felt, it was because our son prayed for us,
Wow.
even through the sins that we were going through in that moment. And that's why I love this verse, because it says, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. Our son healed us in that moment. Like, do you remember this story?
I do. And I don't remember being told that well. And you broke down every part of it. Like that's crazy. He saved us.
No, he really did. He really did. So,
and
he's not even like, he's a praying type, but he's not as like,
No,
he's a teenager. Like,
yeah.
We're still baby Christians over here, but you know what I mean? Like, we pour into him as much as we can. When he said that he prayed for us, that really touched my soul. Cause I don't know, it just did something to me.
If that don't tell you anything, this podcast ain't for you. No, that was everything. Yes, that was a great story to relate to what we're talking about. I think that moving from that, it's also, showing him that conflict doesn't mean people stop loving each other. It means that we care enough to work through it, even when it's hard. I think that's the important part. So clearly that argument we had, it was a tough one. So we cared to work through it.
Exactly. So if you're like listening and thinking to yourself like, oh my gosh, we argued in front of the kids, we messed up. No, you're just human. But what you do next is what matters. Just ensure that you're ending the arguments with love. Involve your children in your fights. And I'm not saying like go tell them what y'all fight about, but just help them understand that, mom and daddy had a fight. We're working through it and we're going to get it through together, as long as we have God in the center of our marriage. And as long as he sees these principles together. Because, like I've said to you before, Mikai will see us argue, but he'll come back in our room and see me laying on your chest. And he knows like they just had an argument, but because if anybody knows me, if we argue, I'm not going to I want space. You know what I mean? And so for me to just be on your chest so quickly and him seeing that's teaching him like, mom does get over things. This wasn't even a real fight. It's nothing. But for him to see the love that I have for you regardless is what matters. And then on top of that, there are times where he walks in on us praying with each other. Like, let's say we had a fight or disagreement the night before and he comes in our room the following morning, like he sees us pray. I think that also is so impactful as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point. I think of that. So ultimately, I think it's important to make it right with each other, with your kid as well. So I think that's kind of what we do. We let him see the repair, we let him see the result of the conflict. It didn't get worse. It was an issue that we got over, and I think that's where teaching lives. That's where the trust is rebuilt with, the relationship that we have with him. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. So no fighting in front of your kids isn't the end of the world, but it can either become a pattern that breeds fear or a lesson that builds trust. So the choice is really yours and how you handle conflict within your marriage. And I know we talked a lot about, fighting and all these things, but being silent is also, detrimental as well. I don't think we could speak on that because we're not silent when it comes to our, we're not silent when it comes to our disagreements, but your kids thinking that you guys are just happy all the time, they're going to have these unrealistic expectations when they go into their next relationship or marriage and think that everything is supposed to be hunky-dory. They're going to be so afraid of conflict because they never saw it in their household. They're going to be so emotional immature within their marriage or relationship or whoever they're dealing with.
That's crazy. That's facts. And I feel like because we've been, we've gotten better at that and teaching that in front of him, there's even points where like if we're having like a fake argument, like, something stupid and he's there, I feel like he doesn't put his 2 cents in, but he'll throw a little like, all right, mom, you're tweaking, or like
every time.
All right, like, he'll like make his 2 cents and like tell us which side he's on, like in the moment. I think for me, when he says I'm the one that's like going overboard, I'll be like, damn, if he thinks that, then, he's probably right. I don't know. That might not even relate it in any way.
No,
but
I get it. I think our children can humble us sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think when he humbles me, our therapist, she likes to say like, it's a reflection. Your children are a reflection of you. And you always want to make sure you're, being the best version of yourself in front of your kids, but you also don't want to disappoint your kids. So when you see that your kids are disappointed in you in that moment, it kind of breaks you down and you're like, dang, you're right. I do need to calm down. I think a lot of adults, they be like, you get out of adult
Go
business.
folks business.
Yeah, it's stop doing that. Stop running your children away. They have emotions, they have feelings. And as long as they're not being disrespectful on how they're feeling, it's okay for them to, express
The voice, yeah.
to express themselves.
If
And if they're out of line, that's when we be like,
exactly.
cut it out. It's not, we're not the one.
Anything else? I think we hit a lot of good points.
I think we did. I think this was a really good episode, and I hope that what we said resonated with you at all, even just a little bit. Our son, he's 15, so I know it'll be different if you have younger kids. You just want to set the best example, but set it as early as you can, because I feel like our son, being 15, and why I feel like he's so emotionally mature is because I've taught him at a very young age to, what a healthy anything looks like. And I know I said I a lot, so just let them know that, my son is your bonus dad.
Did you say? It doesn't even hit me no more because I know you're talking about my son too. So,
no.
Anyways, there's this verse that I wanted to end this whole. I feel like it wraps up everything we talked about so perfectly, and it says, in 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 8, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. So that says everything. A multitude of sins. So as long as you have love in the forefront, conflict will always be there. Disagreements will always be there. If you have that love for each other, especially in those moments in front of your kid, it erases all sins. It doesn't erase it, but you know what I'm saying. So I love that verse. I think it wraps everything up perfectly. Yeah. Anything else to wrap? That's it, right?
I think that's it.
So just want to say to end, if there was any, if you had a favorite verse, or if you have a situation of your own where, you had a fight in front of your kid and, something good or bad came out of it, feel free to share with us. We're open to any further discussions, conversations, any insight. Again, we're just going off our experience, off things that's worked for us. So feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe.
Wait, you forgot to ask a question.
Yeah, but I did. I didn't think of one.
We like to end the episode with.
I try to avoid it because I couldn't think of one. Do you have one?
Do you have a favorite childhood restaurant that you used to go to with your family that you really love?
Hood restaurant. Honestly, it's probably a little cliche.
You say Chuck E. Cheese.
No, but I should have. That's not a restaurant though.
It can
Chuck E. Cheese pizza. Oh my gosh. Damn. That probably, I was gonna say Red Lobster. That's like cliche. As a kid, like that was like you going to freaking Michael Jordan Steakhouse when you was a kid. But I don't know. Red Lobster was like our family, like, go to if we, I don't know, it was really like an intentional thing when we went to Red Lobster. So, and the food was good, and the biscuits, they never fail. So
the biscuits fire.
Yeah. So that's that. But yeah, Chuck E. Cheese pizza. So my question for you is, what was my question? Not a childhood thing, but what was your favorite? I know it's hard to pick a favorite, but what comes to mind for like one of your most favorite or top favorite date nights? It could be marriage, pre-marriage, first date ever. I know it's not that.
First date ever is crazy. You do not want me to talk about that story.
Okay, you're too excited. Go ahead, answer the question.
You know what? I'm not even going to go into that. I just want to say that you have come a long way from our first date.
Pick one.
Okay, my favorite date night is when you took me to, I don't know what it was called, but it was like a symphony, I would say, with the violin. It was like
Adele.
we went to like an Adele candlelight
symphony, I think it's
symphony.
Orchestra,
it was just orchestra. I just love anything classical. It just, the vibes were there. The I don't want to call them band, but the orchestra, they were just on point. And it was so romantic. I love dressing up, so we were wearing like gowns and we were a suit. That
was fun.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite dates with you, for sure.
Yeah, and it was Adele. They did some fire songs.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap this up. This was great. Another one in the books. Y'all, thank you again for joining another episode of No BS Just Marriage. Please, please, please feel free to voice anything in the comments. Anything hit you. If you learned anything, if you disagree with anything, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to communicate with you all. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all the above, and we greatly appreciate it. Until next time, we wish you all the best.
Bye, guys.
Have a good night.